I am so glad you're joining us today for a reading from the Jesus Storybook Bible. Remember, this book helps us see the stories in the Bible and remember Jesus and what he did for us in each story. So, get your book if you have it. Get ready to follow along and read along with the story. And then at the end of the story, there'll be a fun activity that you can do with your family.
"10 ways to be perfect." So there they all were. Grannies, granddads, babies, uncles, aunts, children's, mums and dads, out there in the middle of the desert. They had blisters from all the walking. They were hungry and thirsty and much, much too hot. "We don't like it," they said. "It stinks." And so did they, for that matter, because no one had taken a bath in weeks. Now, remember, because this is something they'd forgotten, God had done amazing things for his people. He'd hidden them inside a cloud, he'd moved the sea, he'd set them free. But God's people still weren't happy. They didn't care about being free. Wasn't it better when they were slaves? At least they had had lots of nice food to eat. "God doesn't want us to be happy," they said. It was the same lie that Adam and Eve had heard all those years before. "God has brought us out here to kill us. God doesn't love us." But they didn't know God very well, did they? Every day of their journey, God kept on showing his people how well he would look after them, if they would trust him and obey him. When they were hungry, God made the sky rain with food, bread coming down from heaven. "What is it?" they asked each other. They didn't know, so they called it, "What is it?" Which, of course, is a very good name for something when you don't know what it is. When they were thirsty and started quarreling, God made water flow from a rock. Moses called that place Quarreling, because that seemed like a good name too. And still God's children didn't trust him or do what he said. They thought they could do a better job of looking after themselves and making themselves happy. But God knew there was no such thing as happiness without him. So God led them to a tall mountain. God wanted to talk to his people and show them what he was like. He wanted to help them know him better and tell them about the special land he was going to give them. "The whole earth belongs to me," God said. "But I have chosen you. You are my special family. I want you to live in a way that shows everyone else what I'm like, so they can know me too." God called Moses up the mountain. The great mountain shook. A thick cloud fell. Thunder roared, lightning crackled, and God gave Moses 10 rules called commandments. "I want you to love me more than anything else in all the world, and know that I love you too," God told them. That's the most important thing of all. God gave them other rules like, don't make yourselves pretend gods. Don't kill people, or steal, or lie. The rules showed God's people how to live and how to be close to him and how to be happy. They showed how life worked best. "God promises to always look after you," Moses said. "Will you love him and keep these rules?" "We can do it! Yes, we promise!" But they were wrong. They couldn't do it, no matter how hard they tried. They could never keep God's rules all the time. God knew they couldn't, and he wanted them to know it too. Only one person could keep all the rules, and many years later, God would send him. to stand in their place and be perfect for them, because the rules couldn't save them. Only God could save them.
We just finished hearing about the story of Moses and the 10 Commandments that God sent his people. We know that the story of rules does not end well. God's people cannot keep the rules. But we know that God had a plan, that his son that he sent to save us can follow every rule, and he did follow every rule. And that is a good story. We're going to play a game to try to demonstrate this. We are going to play possible and impossible Simon Says. So I want you to think of possible tasks and things that you cannot do that are impossible. Some examples of possible things are raising your right hand, laying on the floor, jumping on one foot. Impossible tasks are trying to reach the ceiling from keeping your feet on the floor, or another example is jumping and staying in the air for 5 seconds. I know that you guys are creative and you can think of a whole bunch of other examples. So I want you to do that. Try to maybe write them down or remember them all, and then play Simon Says with the people in your household and see the difference between having a task that is possible and impossible. We know that God sent his son because he was the only possible option to do everything right and to live a sinless life. So I hope this game helps you demonstrate that and reinforces our story of the 10 Commandments. Have fun!
Ready? Psalm 119:11. I have stored up your word in my heart that I might not sin against you.